The ship hit the ground harder than anything Hannah had ever felt. Metal screamed. Fire bloomed in the corners of her vision. Then everything went dark and silent except for the ringing in her ears. When she opened her eyes, smoke filled the cockpit. Her left arm hung at a wrong angle. Pain shot through her ribs with every breath. Blood dripped from cuts across her stomach and chest. The emergency systems were dead. The diplomatic vessel that was supposed to carry her safely to the peace talks was now a burning wreck on an unknown moon. Hannah unbuckled herself with her good hand. Each movement sent fresh waves of pain through her body. She had to get out before the fuel cells exploded. Using her right arm and legs, she dragged herself through the broken windscreen. Glass cut her palms. She did not care. She just needed to move. The moon's surface was rocky and cold. Two suns hung low in the purple sky. Strange plants with silver leaves grew between the stones. Hannah pulled herself 20 meters from the wreck before her strength gave out. She collapsed against a boulder, breathing hard, clutching her broken arm against her chest. That was when she heard the growling. They came from behind the rocks. 6 of them. Each one stood as tall as a grown human but moved on 4 legs like wolves. Their fur was deep red with black stripes. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dim light. Muscles rippled under their skin. When they opened their mouths, Hannah saw teeth as long as her fingers. The creatures circled her slowly. Their noses twitched as they smelled her blood. Low snarls rumbled in their throats. Hannah recognized the behavior. They were predators. She was prey. And she was too injured to run. The largest one stepped forward. He was bigger than the others, with a white patch on his chest. His ears stood straight up. His tail was rigid. Every part of his body screamed aggression. He expected her to fight or flee. Hannah did neither. She sat down carefully against the boulder, still holding her broken arm. The pain was terrible, but she kept her breathing steady. She looked at the creatures calmly. Her translator device was somehow still working on her collar. She activated it with her chin. "Hello," she said quietly. "I am not going to hurt you." The creatures jerked back in surprise. They had not expected her to speak. The large one with the white chest growled louder. He took another step forward, lowering his head. His packmates followed his lead. "I know I am bleeding," Hannah continued. Her voice stayed level despite the pain. "I know you can smell it. But I am not a threat to you." The creature closest to her, a female with bright eyes, sniffed the air. She looked confused. "Why no attack?" She growled in a rough voice. The translator converted her words. "You injured? You should fight or run?" "Fighting would make my injuries worse," Hannah explained. "Running would also hurt me more. So I choose to sit still and talk instead." "She tricks us," snarled another one, smaller but fierce. "She waits to strike." "I am not waiting to strike," Hannah said. She carefully moved her broken arm into her lap. The creatures tensed, ready to attack. But Hannah just examined the break calmly. The bone had pushed through the skin. White fragments showed through the blood. "Look, my arm is broken. It needs to be set and wrapped." "Fighting you would be stupid." The large one with the white chest stepped even closer. He was close enough now that Hannah could feel his hot breath. "Pain should make rage," he said. His voice was deep and harsh. "You hurt. You should want to hurt us. Why?" Hannah asked simply. The question seemed to confuse all of them. They looked at each other. The large one tilted his head. "Because pain is pain. Pain makes anger. Anger makes fight. This is the way." Hannah shook her head slowly. "Not for humans. Pain is just information. My body is telling me what is damaged. My arm says it is broken. My ribs say they are cracked. My skin says it is cut. That is all. The pain does not control what I do next." "Lies!" snapped the small, fierce one. "All things rage when hurt." "Watch," Hannah said. She took a deep breath. Then, using her good hand, she felt along her broken arm. She found where the bone was displaced. Without warning, she pulled it back into alignment. The pain was blinding. White hot. Hana's vision went dark at the edges. She screamed. The sound echoed off the rocks. The creatures jumped back, expecting her to attack in her agony, but when the scream ended, Hana just sat there, breathing. Tears ran down her face from the pain. But her expression was calm. She was not snarling. She was not attacking. She was just sitting, holding her arm in a better position. "You see?" she said when she could speak again. Her voice shook slightly but stayed controlled. "Pain is terrible. I felt all of it. But pain and rage are different things. I can choose how to respond." The creature stared at her like she was something impossible. The female with bright eyes crept closer. "How you do this?" she whispered. "How you not attack when hurt so bad?" "Practice," Hana said. "And understanding? Pain is not my enemy. Pain is my teacher. It tells me what my body needs. Right now, my body needs rest and medicine." "Not fighting?" The large one sat back on his haunches. His aggressive posture relaxed slightly. "I am Timon," he said, "pack leader of these cubs. We are on our blood trial. First hunt as warriors." "I am Hana," she replied. "Captain of that crashed ship? I was going to peace talks. Now I am just trying to survive." "You should be dead," said another cub, a male with scars already on his muzzle. "You are small, weak, broken, easy kill." "Maybe," Hana agreed. "But killing me would teach you nothing. I can show you things about humans, about how we handle pain and fear. Would that not make your blood trial more valuable?" Timon considered this. His yellow eyes studied Hana carefully. Behind him, the other cubs whispered to each other. They had never seen anything like this human. Most injured creatures they found were either already dead or fought viciously until they died. This one just sat and talked. "You are insane or clever," Timon finally decided. "Maybe both." "We will not kill you yet. You will come to Crimson Ridge. The elders will decide what to do with you." "Thank you," Hana said. She tried to stand, but her legs would not hold her. The blood loss was making her weak. "I may need help walking." The female cub came forward. "I am Bora. I will help." She crouched down so Hana could grab her fur. "But I do not understand you. You should hate us for threatening you." Hana pulled herself onto Bora's back. The movement hurt everywhere, but she kept her voice steady. "Why would I hate you? You're just doing what your nature tells you." "I do not hate a storm for raining. I just prepare for it." As the pack began walking toward their settlement, Hana held on to consciousness with effort. The pain was constant and overwhelming, but she breathed through it, controlled it, did not let it control her. Tien walked beside Bora, watching the human closely. "This will change things," he said quietly to himself. "The elders will not know what to make of her." Hana heard him but said nothing. She was too focused on staying awake, on breathing, on proving that humans could endure without becoming monsters of rage. Even if it killed her, she would show them there was another way. The twin suns set behind them as they traveled into the unknown. Crimson Ridge was not a town. It was a fortress carved into red stone cliffs. Every building was designed for war. Training grounds spread between the structures. Young warriors practiced combat everywhere Hana looked. The sound of snarling and clashing weapons filled the air. The cubs brought her to the center of the settlement. A massive warrior waited there. He was twice the size of Timon, covered in scars that told stories of countless battles. One of his eyes was milky white and blind. His fur was gray with age. This was Elder Deho, and his presence made all the cubs lower their heads in respect. "This is what you bring me from your blood trial?" Deho's voice was like grinding stones. "A broken human?" "She is strange, Elder," Timon said. "She feels pain but does not rage. She screams but does not attack. We have never seen this before." Deho circled Hana slowly. She stood on shaking legs, still holding her broken arm. Blood had dried on her clothes. Her face was pale from blood loss, but she met the elder's gaze without fear. "Humans are weak," Deho said. "This is known. You bend and break easily. This is why you hide behind machines and diplomacy. We are different, Hannah corrected quietly. Different is not the same as weak. The elder's good eye narrowed. You correct me? In my own settlement? I state facts, elder, that is all. For a long moment nobody moved. The cubs held their breath. Correcting an elder could mean death. But then Deho laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. You have courage, little human. Foolish courage, but courage. You will stay in the war lodge. If you survive your injuries without treatment, perhaps you will prove your strength. They locked Hannah in a stone cell with no windows. There was only a sleeping mat and a bucket. Her emergency medical kit had been lost in the crash. She had nothing to treat her wounds. The Threxians believed that enduring pain without help proves strength. So they gave her no medicine, no bandages, nothing. The first night was agony. Her broken arm throbbed. Her cracked ribs made every breath painful. The cuts across her body began to swell. Infection was starting? Hannah knew she might die here. But she also knew that showing weakness would accomplish nothing. So she did what humans do best. She adapted. Using strips torn from her uniform, Hannah made a sling for her arm. She found that sitting in certain positions put less pressure on her ribs. She stayed still to conserve energy. And she waited. On the second night, she heard scratching at her door. Whispers in the Threxian language. Then Timon's voice came through the gap. Human, are you alive? Yes, Hannah answered. Her voice was hoarse from thirst. Why? Asked another voice, Bora. You should be dead from pain. How you still live? Because pain is not death, Hannah said. Pain is just uncomfortable. I have been uncomfortable before. The door opened slightly. 4 cubs slipped inside. Timon, Bora, and 2 others. The male with scars was called Hyunwoo. The smallest was a female named Sola. They all stared at Hannah with wide eyes. We are not supposed to come here, Sola whispered. But we must know. How you do this? How you stay calm when hurt? Hannah shifted carefully into a sitting position. Sit down. I will explain. The cubs settled around her. Their ears were forward with curiosity. Hannah began to teach them. She explained how human bodies work. How pain was just nerve signals. How the brain could acknowledge pain without letting it control behavior. She described breathing techniques that calmed the mind. She talked about separating physical sensation from emotional response. In my culture, Hannah said, we learn from childhood that we are not our pain. We have pain. We feel it. But it does not define us. We can experience terrible things and still choose how we act. But anger makes us strong, Hyunwoo argued. When we rage in battle, we feel no pain. We fight harder, and when the battle ends? Hannah asked. When you are injured and the rage fades? What then? Hyunwoo had no answer. Rage is borrowing strength from tomorrow, Hannah continued. You feel powerful now, but pay for it later. Calmness is using only the strength you actually have. It lasts longer. The cubs visited every night after that. Hannah taught them everything she could about human medicine and philosophy. They brought her water and small bits of food they stole from the kitchens. Slowly, her body began to heal. 2 weeks passed. Then Bora came to training one day and took a bad wound. Another warrior's blade had cut deep into her thigh during practice. The cut was long and dirty. Blood soaked her fur. The Threxian way was to ignore it. To prove toughness by continuing to train despite the injury, Bora tried. She limped through the rest of the day's exercises. But by evening, her leg was swollen and hot. Infection had set in fast. She could barely walk. The other warriors mocked her weakness. Soon she would be cast out of the pack for failing to endure. That night, Timon and Hyunwoo half-carried Bora to Hannah's cell. Please, Timon said. Help her. She will die if we follow our way. Hannah examined the wound carefully. It was bad. Red lines were spreading up Bora's leg. Blood poisoning. Without treatment, Bora would lose the leg or lose her life. I need supplies. Clean water, cloth, something sharp and clean. And if you have any spirits for drinking, Bring that too. The cubs scattered and returned with what they could steal. Hannah worked quickly. She heated the blade in the flame of their lamp to sterilize it. She used the alcohol to clean the wound, washing out the dirt and dead tissue. Bora whimpered in pain, but Hannah kept talking to her calmly. Breathe with me, Hannah instructed. In slowly. Out slowly. The pain is real. Accept it. Do not fight it. Let it exist and keep breathing through it. Bora followed the instructions. Her body relaxed slightly, even though the pain continued. Hannah stitched the wound closed using thread from her uniform. She wrapped it in clean cloth. Then she made Bora drink water with a little salt dissolved in it. Keep it clean, Hannah said. Change the bandage every day. The pain will be bad for a few days, but then it will get better. Do not let anyone tell you to remove the bandage and toughen through it. That is how you die. Within 3 days, Bora's wound was healing cleanly. Within a week, she was walking normally. The other cubs were amazed. Bora was not only alive, but stronger than before. No infection. No permanent damage. She had healed faster than anyone they had ever seen. Word spread among the young warriors. Soon other cubs were sneaking to Hannah's cell with injuries. A broken finger. A twisted ankle. Cuts that were not healing right. Hannah taught them all the same lessons. Clean your wounds. Rest them properly. Pain is information about what your body needs, not a test of your worth, but not everyone was pleased with these changes. War Chief Minho heard rumors of the cubs visiting the human. He heard that they were questioning the old ways, that they were learning weakness instead of strength. Minho was everything a Threxian warrior should be. Massive, scarred, and filled with barely controlled rage. He had led more raids than any other warrior. He had killed more enemies than he could count. And he did not appreciate some soft human teaching, cubs, that pain did not require anger. On the 20th day of Hannah's imprisonment, Minho came to her cell. He ripped the door off its hinges. The metal screamed. Hannah looked up calmly from where she sat. You corrupt our young, Minho snarled. You teach them to be weak like you. I teach them to be smart, Hannah replied. There is a difference, then prove it. Minho's lips pulled back from his teeth. I challenge you to ritual combat. Tomorrow at dawn, you against me. To the death. We will see if your human philosophy can stand against Threxian strength. Hannah's heart sank. She had been healing, but she was still injured. Still weak. Minho would tear her apart in seconds. But if she refused, the cubs would be punished for listening to a coward. I accept, she said quietly. Minho laughed and left. When the cubs heard what had happened, they gathered in Hannah's cell. Solo was crying. You cannot fight him. He will kill you. Probably, Hannah agreed. But I have to try? Otherwise, everything I taught you will seem like lies. Then teach us how to help, Tiemann said firmly. You teach us your way. Now we help you survive it. The cubs worked through the night. They brought Hannah food to build her strength. They found strips of cloth to wrap her ribs tightly for support. They helped her practice movements that would not worsen her injuries. And Hannah taught them her final lesson. If I die tomorrow, she said, remember this. I did not die because Calm is weak. I died because Minho is bigger and trained. But even in death, I will prove that rage is a choice. Watch me. Even when he kills me, I will not become a monster. The cubs did not sleep that night. Neither did Hannah, and when dawn broke over Crimson Ridge, the entire settlement gathered to watch a tiny human face a warrior who had never lost a fight. The blood circle was ancient. Generations of warriors had fought and died on this flat stone ground. Their blood had stained it dark red, almost black. A ring of carved pillars surrounded the space. Every warrior in Crimson Ridge stood outside those pillars, watching silently. Hannah walked to the center of the circle. Her ribs were wrapped tight under her torn uniform. Her broken arm was healing but still weak. She had slept maybe 2 hours. Everything hurt. But she kept her face calm and her breathing steady. Minho entered from the opposite side. He was enormous. Muscles rippled under his red and black fur. Scars covered his body like a map of violence. His claws were as long as knife blades. When he walked, the ground seemed to shake. The crowd roared their approval. Minho was their champion, their proof that strength and rage were the only truths that mattered. Elder Deho stood between them. His voice carried across the circle. This is ritual combat. No weapons. No mercy. Fight until one cannot continue or one is dead. Minho, War Chief of Crimson Ridge. Hannah, Human Stranger. Do you both accept these terms? I accept, Minho growled. His eyes burned with eagerness. I accept, Hannah said quietly. Deho stepped back. Begin. Minho charged immediately. He was fast despite his size. His claws reached for Hannah's throat. The crowd expected her to dodge or run. She did neither. Instead, she stepped forward into his attack, dropping low and turning. Minho's claws whistled over her head. She grabbed his extended arm with both hands and used his own momentum to throw him past her. It was a basic judo throw. Minho crashed to the ground, more surprised than hurt. The crowd went silent. They had never seen someone use an attacker's strength against them. They only knew how to meet force with greater force. Minho rose with a snarl. Now he was angry. He came at Hannah again, more carefully this time. He swung with his massive paws. Each blow could have shattered bones. Hannah moved like water, flowing around his attacks. When she had to block, she redirected rather than stopping the force directly. When she had to take a hit, she rolled with it to lessen the impact, but she was still much smaller and weaker. And she was already injured. It was only a matter of time. Minho's claws caught her shoulder. Blood sprayed. The crowd roared. Hannah stumbled back. Pain exploded through her body. The cubs watching outside the circle whimpered. They expected her to scream in rage now, to attack wildly like anyone else would. Hannah pressed her hand to the wound. Blood ran between her fingers. She looked at it calmly, assessed the damage. Not deep enough to hit anything vital. Painful but survivable. She looked back at Minho and reset her stance. Why you not angry? Minho demanded. He sounded almost offended. I hurt you. You should want to hurt me back. I do want to hurt you back, Hannah admitted. Her voice was strained but controlled. But wanting and doing are different things. If I let anger control me, I make mistakes. Mistakes get me killed. Then you will die calm, Minho said. He charged again. This time his attacks were relentless. He struck again and again. Hannah blocked and dodged, but she was slowing down. Blood loss was making her weak. A heavy blow caught her in the ribs. She heard something crack. The air left her lungs. She fell to her knees. Minho stood over her. The crowd was chanting his name. Stay down, he said. Accept defeat. I will make your death quick. Hannah breathed carefully through the pain. Her ribs were definitely broken now. Maybe more than before. Every breath was agony. She should stay down. She should give up. Nobody would blame her, but the cubs were watching. Timin, Bora, Hyunwoo, Sola, all the young ones who had learned that pain did not have to mean rage. If she gave up now, what would that teach them? Hannah stood up. The crowd went quiet again. Minho stared at her in disbelief. Why? He asked. Why you keep fighting? You cannot win. Winning and fighting are different things, Hannah said. Blood dripped from her mouth. I fight because giving up teaches nothing. Even if I lose, I show that humans do not surrender to pain. Something flickered in Minho's eyes. Respect, maybe, or confusion. He came at her again, but slower now. More cautious. Hannah noticed that his earlier attacks had been wild with rage. Now he was thinking more, being more precise. Her calmness was making him calmer. That gave her an idea. She let him come close. Let him think she was too weak to defend. At the last second, she dropped and swept his legs. Minho went down. She tried to follow up, but her broken ribs screamed in protest. She was too slow. Minho caught her with a backhand blow that sent her flying. Hannah hit the ground hard. Her vision went dark at the edges. She tasted blood. Her left arm, the one that had been broken before, made a terrible cracking sound. The bone had broken again. Pain flooded her system, overwhelming, all-consuming. She screamed, long and loud. The sound echoed off the stone pillars. The crowd erupted. This was what they had been waiting for. Now she would rage. Now she would attack like a wounded animal. Now she would prove that pain always led to violence. But when Hannah's scream ended, she just lay there, breathing. Tears streamed down her face. Her arm hung at a terrible angle. But she was not snarling. She was not trying to attack. She was just acknowledging the pain. Giving it voice? Then letting it pass through her. Slowly, carefully, Hannah pushed herself up with her good arm. She stood on shaking legs. Her broken arm hung useless at her side. She was crying from the pain, but her eyes were clear, focused. She raised her one working hand in a fighting stance. Minho just stood there, staring. "This is not possible," he whispered. "Nobody endures this without rage, nobody." "Humans do," Hannah said. Her voice was weak but steady. "We feel everything you feel. All the pain. All the anger. But we choose what we do with it. That is our strength. Not that we do not feel, but that we feel and choose anyway." For the first time in the fight, Minho hesitated. Hannah saw her chance. She rushed forward, using the last of her energy. Minho, confused and off balance, swung too wide. Hannah ducked under his arm. She grabbed a piece of broken stone from the edge of the circle. As Minho turned, she swept his legs again. This time when he fell, she fell with him. She landed on his chest with the stone edge pressed against his throat. The crowd was silent. Completely silent. Minho was pinned. The stone was sharp enough to cut. One push and his blood would pour out. He had lost. Everyone could see it. The war chief had been defeated by a tiny, broken human. "Do it!" Minho gasped. His pride was shattered. "Kill me. End it." Hannah looked into his eyes. She saw rage there, humiliation, confusion, all the emotions she was feeling too. But she also saw something else. A question. A wondering. How had she done this? She dropped the stone. It clattered on the ground. Then she did something no Threxian had ever seen in combat. She offered Minho her hand. "You fought with honor," Hannah said. Her voice was getting weaker. Blood loss was catching up to her. "You are strong and skilled. But strength does not have to mean cruelty. And pain does not have to mean rage. Stand up, not as my enemy. Just stand up." Minho stared at her hand like it was a weapon. The crowd stared too. This was not how ritual combat ended. The winner killed or loser begged. There was no third option. But Hannah was creating one. Minho's face twisted with emotion. Anger, shame, wonder. He knocked her hand away and stood on his own. "You mock me," he snarled. "You show mercy to prove I am weak." "No," Hannah said. She swayed on her feet. Her vision was fading. "I show mercy because I choose to. Just like I chose to stand. Just like I chose to keep fighting. My choices are mine. Your strength is yours. Neither is less because the other exists." She took one step toward the edge of the circle. Then her legs gave out. She collapsed. The last thing she saw was Timon and the cubs rushing toward her. The last thing she heard was Elder Deho's voice. "The duel is ended." No victor, no defeated. Only questions. When Hannah woke up, she was back in her cell. But this time there were bandages on her wounds. Water beside her mat, food, someone had treated her injuries. Not the full Threxian way of ignoring pain. Not quite the human way of complete medicine. But something in between. Timon sat against the wall, watching her. "You are awake. Good. The elders argued for hours about what you did. Some say you won. Some say Minho won. Some say you both lost. What do you say?" Hannah asked. Timon was quiet for a long moment. "I say you taught us that there are more than two choices. Fight or surrender. Rage or die. You showed a third way. That is worth more than winning. Outside the cell, Hannah could hear voices. Young voices. Cubs gathering, whispering, wondering. The questions had begun. And questions Hannah knew were more dangerous to Old Ways than any weapon. Minho might have kept his life. But the duel had killed something else. The certainty that rage was the only response to pain, and that death would change Crimson Ridge forever. 6 weeks had passed since the duel. Hannah's wounds were healing slowly. Her arm was set properly now. Her ribs had mended. The cuts had become scars. She could walk around the settlement freely. Elder Deho had declared her neither prisoner nor guest, but something else. A teacher without a title. More and more cubs came to her lessons. She taught them about human medicine, about controlling emotions, about choosing responses instead of reacting. Some older warriors scoffed at this. But many of the young were listening, learning. Minho watched all of this from a distance. He had not spoken to Hannah since the duel. His pride was wounded worse than his body. The other warriors no longer looked at him with the same respect. He had been beaten by a small human. That shame burned in him like poison. One evening, Timon came to Hannah's cell with news. His ears were flat against his head. His tail was low. "We have been chosen," he said quietly. "Bora, Hyunwoo, Sola, and me. We leave tomorrow." "Leave for where?" Hannah asked. "Our first true raid." Timon would not meet her eyes. "Minho leads it. We attack a human colony 3 systems away. We will take food and supplies. Kill anyone who resists. This is our final test to become full warriors." Hannah's blood went cold. A human colony? Which one? They call it New Hope, farmers mostly, families, easy targets. Timon looked miserable. "I do not want to go." "None of us do." "Not anymore. But if we refuse, we are cast out. We become nothing." That night, Hannah could not sleep. She kept thinking about New Hope. She had heard of it. A peaceful settlement. People who left Earth to grow crops on a new world. Scientists, teachers, children. They had no weapons. No defenses. The Threxians would slaughter them. She had to stop it. But how? If she told Elder Deho, he would do nothing. Raiding was the Threxian way. How they survived. Their world provided little food, so they took from others. That was their culture. Their necessity. Before dawn, Hannah made a decision. She found Sola near the raid ships. "I need your help," Hannah said. "I need to get on that ship?" Sola's eyes went wide. "You cannot. If Minho finds you, he will kill you. The elders will not protect you off Crimson Ridge." "I know, but I have to try." "Those are my people on New Hope. I cannot let them die without trying to stop it." Sola stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "You teach us that pain does not mean rage. Now I learn that fear does not mean inaction. Come, I hide you in the cargo bay." The raid ship was massive and fast, built for war. Hannah hid among crates of weapons and supplies. The journey took 6 hours. She spent them planning, thinking, hoping she could find words that would stop violence. When they arrived at New Hope, Hannah could see it through a crack in the cargo bay. Fields of golden crops. Small houses with solar panels. A school, a medical center. Children playing in a park. It looked like peace made real. The Threxians gathered for the attack. Minho stood before them, his voice carrying across the ship. "Remember your training. Take the supplies? If they resist, kill them. Show no mercy. That is the warrior way. Cubs, this is your test. Fail and you are nothing." Timon, Bora, Hyunwoo, and Sola stood together. Their faces were conflicted. Everything they had learned from Hannah warred with everything their culture demanded. But orders were orders. They prepared to attack. The ship landed at the edge of the colony. The cargo bay opened. Warriors poured out. Hannah waited until most had left, then slipped out behind them. She had to get to the colony first. Had to warn them. She ran through the fields, her still healing body protesting. Behind her, she heard the war cries of the Threxians. Ahead, she saw colonists looking up in confusion at the strange ship. They did not know what was coming. They did not know they were about to die. Hannah reached the first house. A woman was standing outside, shielding her eyes from the sun as she looked at the ship. "Run!" Hannah screamed. "Get inside. Lock your doors. They are coming." The woman saw Hannah's uniform, saw her desperation. Understanding hit her face. She turned and ran, shouting warnings. Alarms began to sound. People scattered. Children were pulled inside. In moments, the peaceful colony became a maze of locked doors and frightened faces, but it was not enough. The Threxians reached the colony. They began breaking down doors, taking food stores, grabbing anything valuable. Some colonists tried to fight back with tools and farming equipment. They were not warriors. They died quickly. Teeman led his pack through the streets. His orders were to secure the food storage building. They ran toward it, weapons ready. Then Teeman saw something that made him stop, a human child. Maybe 6 years old. She had been separated from her parents in the chaos. She stood in the middle of the street, crying, lost. When she saw Teeman and the other Threxian cubs, she screamed in terror. The cubs surrounded her. She was small, defenseless, easy prey. But she was also just a frightened child, crying for her mother. Looking at them with eyes full of fear, Bora stepped forward. Her claws were out, but she was not moving to attack. She was remembering when she had been wounded. When Hannah had helped her despite having every reason not to. When Hannah had shown that mercy was not weakness. "We should move on," Bora said quietly. "Leave the child? There is no honor in this." "Our orders are to take everything," Yunwu said. But his voice was uncertain. He was looking at the child's tears, seeing a young thing in pain, wondering why it made him feel wrong inside. Then they heard the sound. A weapon charging. They turned to see a colonist, a woman, holding an old plasma rifle. Her hands were shaking. She was not a fighter, but she was standing between them and the child. "Get away from her," the woman said. Her voice trembled but held firm. The cubs could have killed her easily. Should have. That was the warrior way. But they hesitated. And in that hesitation, Hannah arrived. She was bleeding from a cut on her forehead. Her clothes were torn, but she ran between the woman and the cubs. "Stop," she shouted. "All of you. Just stop, Hannah." Teeman stared at her in shock. "How are you here?" "I stowed away. I had to." Hannah was gasping for breath. "Teeman, look around you. Look at what you are doing. These are not warriors. They are farmers, families. They have done nothing to you." "They have food we need," Teeman said. But he sounded uncertain now. "We take to survive. That is our way. There are other ways to survive." Hannah stepped closer to him. Behind her, the woman with the rifle slowly lowered it. The child ran to her mother. They held each other, watching. "You can trade, negotiate. Humans have food. You have minerals and strength. We can help each other instead of killing each other." Sola stepped forward. "She is right. I have been thinking this since you taught us. Why we always choose violence when other choices exist." From somewhere in the colony, they heard more fighting, screams, weapons fire. A building was burning. The raid was getting worse. But here, in this one street, something different was happening. 5 young Threxians were choosing to stop, to question, to wonder if there was another way. Then Minho appeared. He was covered in blood. His eyes were wild with battle rage. When he saw Hannah with the cubs, his face twisted with fury. "You," he roared. "You followed us? You corrupt my warriors even here?" "I am trying to stop pointless death," Hannah said. She stood her ground even though Minho could tear her apart. "This raid solves nothing. You take their food today? Tomorrow they starve or they come for revenge. The cycle continues. But if you talk instead, you both survive." You both get stronger. Talk is weakness. Minho charged at her, but Bora stepped in his way. Then Hinwoo. Then Sola, then Timan. The cubs formed a wall between Minho and Hana. Move! Minho commanded. That is an order. No, Timan said. His voice was steady. You taught us to be warriors. She taught us to be wise. We choose wisdom. Other Threxian warriors appeared behind Minho. More colonists appeared behind Hana, led by a man wearing a commander's badge. The badge said Jiwan. He had a weapon trained on the Threxians. More colonists were armed now. Desperation had made them fighters. Everyone was pointing weapons at everyone. One wrong move and they would all die. The air was thick with tension and fear. Cubs caught between their war chief and their teacher. Colonists caught between defending their homes and facing extinction, and Hana, standing in the middle, wounded and small and determined to find a third choice when only two seemed to exist. The standoff held for seconds that felt like hours. Nobody moved. Weapons stayed trained on enemies. The only sound was heavy breathing and the crackle of flames from the burning building. Commander Jiwon spoke first. His weapon was pointed at Minho, but his eyes were on Hana. You are not with them? I am Captain Hana, Diplomatic Corps. My ship crashed on their world 6 weeks ago. These creatures are called Threxians. They are raiders, but they are not monsters. Not all of them. She gestured to the cubs standing between her and Minho. These young ones are learning there are other ways. Other ways? Gyuwan's voice was hard with anger. They killed 12 of my people today. Burned our homes. Stole our food. What other way is there to respond except to kill them back? The way that does not leave both sides dead, Hana said. Commander, I know you are angry. You have every right to be. But look at this situation. Really look. You have weapons now. You can fight. But they have more warriors and more experience. If this becomes a war, you lose. Even if you win today, more will come. The cycle continues. Minho snarled. She speaks sense, human commander. We are stronger. We will take what we need. You cannot stop us. Maybe not today, Jiwan replied. His finger tightened on the trigger. But we will call for help. The Alliance will come. They will burn your world from orbit. You will take nothing ever again. Then we all die, Hana said loudly. She turned to address everyone, Threxians, humans, warriors, and farmers. Is that what we want? Is death the only answer anyone can imagine? They started this, said a colonist woman. Her face was wet with tears. They killed my husband. Why should we talk? Because I asked, said a small voice. Everyone turned. It was the child from before. The one Timan's pack had spared. She stood next to her mother, looking at Timan. The big red one did not hurt me. He could have, but he did not. Maybe some of them are good? The mother put her hand on her daughter's shoulder. Her face was conflicted. Pain and grief and hope all mixed together. My daughter is right, she said quietly. They did not hurt her. I do not understand why, but maybe that means something. Timan stepped forward carefully. He lowered his weapons. We did not hurt her because someone taught us that rage is a choice. That causing pain because you feel pain is not strength. It is weakness, he looked at Minho. I will not follow the old way anymore. It is killing us all slowly. I choose something different. You choose betrayal. Minho roared. He moved to attack Timan. But the other cubs moved too. Bora, Yanwu, and Sola stood with Timan. They formed a defensive line. Not attacking. Just standing firm. Behind Minho, other Threxian warriors shifted uncomfortably. They had been watching this unfold. Seeing cubs disobey orders should have made them angry. But instead, many looked thoughtful, uncertain. The cubs were young, but they were brave. That counted for something. Enough! A new voice cut through the tension. Everyone turned. Elder Deho walked slowly into the scene. He was alone, unarmed, his scarred face was unreadable. I have heard enough. Seen enough, Elder. Minho bowed his head slightly. These cubs have dishonored themselves. They refuse to fight. They side with the enemy. Do they? Deho walked to where Timon stood. He looked at the young warrior carefully. Tell me, cub, why you stopped fighting? Timon met the elder's gaze without fear. Because the human taught me that pain is just information. That I can choose my response. That strength without wisdom is just violence. And violence without end is just death. He gestured to the burning colony around them. This is death, elder, not strength. Not survival. Just death waiting to happen. Deho was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a strange sound. Not mocking. Not cruel. Almost sad. I am old, he said. Very old. I have led many raids. Killed many enemies. Taken much. And what do we have? Food that runs out? Enemies that grow. Warriors that die young. Our cubs learn to fight but not to think. To rage but not to choose. He looked at Hannah. This human, this small broken thing, she survived her wounds without our medicine. She stood after I gave her nothing. She fought Minho with broken bones. And she chose mercy when she could have chosen revenge. That is strength I have never seen. It is weakness. Minho shouted. You are old and soft, elder. You forget what made us strong. No, Deho's voice was hard as stone. You forget what strength is for. We are strong to survive. But we are dying anyway, slowly, generation by generation. Our world has less food each year. Our enemies grow more numerous. Soon there will be nothing left to take, and no one left to take it. The human offers another way. Trade instead of raid. Alliance instead of attack. Perhaps it is time we try something different before we have no chances left. Minho's face twisted with rage. Then you are a traitor too. He turned to the other warriors. Who stands with me? Who remembers what it means to be Threxian? Some warriors stepped forward. Maybe half? They stood with Minho, their weapons ready. But the other half stayed where they were, uncertain, questioning. The old certainty was cracking. Minho, Deho said calmly. Stand down. That is not a request. No. Minho charged at Timon. His claws were out. His teeth were bared. He was going to kill the cub who had defied him. But Bora moved. Then Hinwu. Then Sola. They intercepted Minho together. 4 young warriors against 1 war chief. The fight was fast and brutal. Minho was stronger and more experienced. But the cubs fought together, coordinated, protecting each other, using the tactics Hannah had taught them about leverage and patience. And most importantly, they fought without rage. Clear-headed, focused, choosing each move carefully, Minho fought with fury. His attacks were powerful but wild, angry. He made mistakes. The cubs exploited them. Within moments, Minho was on the ground. The cubs stood over him, weapons ready but not striking. Yield, Timon said. Please, War Chief, yield so no one else has to die today. Minho looked up at the cubs, at the other warriors who had not come to his aid, at Elder Deho, who was watching sadly, at Hannah, who stood quiet and calm despite all the violence. I will not yield to weakness, he said. Then you are exiled, Deho declared. By my authority as elder, I remove you from Crimson Ridge. You may take those warriors who wish to follow you, but you will never return, and you will never lead our people again. For a moment, it looked like Minho would attack again, but then something in him broke. The fight went out of his eyes. He stood slowly. 6 warriors followed him as he walked away from the colony, away from everything he had known. Into exile. The remaining Threxians lowered their weapons. Commander G1 slowly did the same. What happens now? He asked. Hannah stepped forward. Now we talk? Elder Deho, your people need food. Commander G1, your people need protection from raiders? And both sides need to stop dying. She looked between them. Crimson Ridge has minerals and metals you need for technology. New Hope has food and medicine you need to thrive. Trade benefits both. Alliance strengthens both. It will not be easy. Trust is built slowly, but it is better than the alternative. Yuan looked at his people, at the dead, at the damage, at his daughter who stood near the Threxian cubs without fear. My people will need time to grieve, to heal, but I will discuss trade. For their sake. He pointed at the cubs. Because they showed there is something in your people worth saving. And my people will listen, Deho said. Some will resist change. That is the way of old warriors. But the young are watching, learning. They will lead us forward even if the old refuse to follow. Over the next days, talks began. Hannah mediated between the two groups. It was difficult, painful. The colonists were angry and hurt. The Threxians were proud and stubborn. But slowly, agreements formed. The Threxians would return what they had stolen. They would help rebuild what they had destroyed. In exchange, the colonists would provide food and teach them farming techniques. The Threxians would provide security against other raiders and share their advanced metals. Both sides would establish a trading post where goods could be exchanged safely. Timon and his pack became the first Threxian ambassadors. They would live part-time in New Hope, learning human ways and teaching Threxian culture. Other cubs volunteered to join them. A new generation was forming. One that had learned that pain did not have to mean rage. That different did not have to mean enemy. 3 months later, Hana stood at the edge of New Hope looking at the construction. Threxian and human workers labored together building a new medical center. Cubs and children played together nearby, making up games that mixed both cultures. The trading post was busy with activity. Tia Amin approached her. He was taller now, more confident, but still thoughtful. You are leaving, he said. It was not a question. Yes, a rescue ship finally arrived. They will take me back to the diplomatic corps. I have many reports to file. Hannah smiled. But I will come back. This is too important to abandon. What we learned from you, Timon said carefully. About pain and choice and wisdom. We will teach our cubs, and they will teach theirs. You changed us. Changed everything. No, Hannah said gently. You changed yourselves. I just showed you that change was possible. You are the ones who chose it. You are the ones who stood against Minho, against centuries of tradition. That took more courage than I have. Timon looked at his packmates working with the humans, at the cubs playing together, at the future being built. My people always believed that pain meant rage.